Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, we're going to be talking about where and how to meet other members of the Witchcraft and Pagan community. Now, one of the most frequent questions that I get asked is, how do I meet like-minded people? How do I find other witches within my community or online? Where do I even start? So today's video is dedicated solely to this topic. Now, before we get started, I do just want to say that not everyone is going to be nice. Not everyone has your best intentions at heart. And so when it comes to meeting and interacting with other people, both online and in person, it's really important to make sure you're doing so safely. Please don't meet anyone that you have never spoken to before. Please do not share your personal information with a stranger on the internet, because as much as we would all like to think that everyone has our best intentions at heart, the reality of the world is that there are some horrible people that do horrible things, and so it's always best to stay safe. Don't share your email address, your phone number, your actual address, and don't meet anyone that you've never spoken to before. Okay, enough of the disclaimers. I've split this into two different categories, online and in person, so that regardless of whether or not you can actually go out and meet people, you have an option if you do want to interact with other members of the community. So let's start with online. I'm going to assume by the fact that you're watching this video that you likely have relatively easy access to the internet, which gives you so many options for meeting like-minded people. Now, there are a lot of forums and websites and apps that you can use, and I definitely can't run through all of them, but I'll go through just some of the most popular ones and the ones that I have used myself. So first up, we have Amino. Now, Amino is a really well-known app that's used by a lot of different groups around the world. It's not just for witches and pagans, though there definitely are specific groups that you can join for that purpose. People use it a lot for gaming and cosplay and TV shows and movies. Amino is essentially a large app platform that has lots of smaller apps and communities within it. So two of the most well-known for witchcraft and paganism are the Pagans and Witches Amino and the Witches Circle Amino. Now, I'm on both of these and I have been for many years, and I really enjoy using them. Essentially, it's a condensed community that offers forums and chats, quizzes and informative posts on your phone, on your tablet, or on your computer. Though I will say, if you are on a computer, you do have reduced abilities. It's not quite the same as using it on a phone, but it is still really good if you do just want to read posts, read articles, learn from other members of the community. And on the app itself, on a phone or a tablet, you can also chat with other members of the community. There are so many different chat rooms for different topics. So if you are interested in elemental witchcraft or green witchcraft, there will be chats dedicated to that specific topic, so you can find very like-minded people really quickly and easily. Now, Amino is completely free. There are obviously paid aspects of it if you do want cute frames to your photo and those kind of things, but generally speaking, Amino is really accessible and it's really well maintained. There's a lot of moderators on all of the time. There's a lot of management. So if you are worried about getting unsolicited messages or just negative responses, Amino is really good because it's really heavily maintained, which is probably one of the reasons why it's so popular for beginner witches. Now, if you are a little bit more advanced, Pagan and Witches and the Witches Circle Aminos might be a little bit too basic. There are definitely some people with a great deal of knowledge on there, but a lot of the people that do post are asking questions to other people, and a lot of the time it's beginners working with beginners to develop their knowledge further, which could be ideal if that's the kind of platform that you're after. So next up, we have forums. Now, there is only one forum that I have ever truly used for witchcraft, and I have used it for a very, very long time, and that is Spells of Magic. Now, Spells of Magic is a really well-known witchcraft forum. It's been running since the early 1990s and is still going today, though it's definitely not as popular today as it used to be. Forums just seem to be not as popular as they were in the 90s and the early 2000s. I don't know what it is, they've just kind of faded a little into obscurity. But Spells of Magic is still active, and it can be a really great place to learn from other members of the community. So this forum is essentially a website that contains spells, articles, active forums where you can ask questions and learn from other people. It also contains online covens and a messaging system so that you can interact with other members either privately via almost internal emails, or you can chat publicly in the public chat where there's usually a good few people chatting at any one time. So Spells of Magic, just like everything else I'm going to talk about today, does have a few downsides. The main one is that it has a very fluffy spell section. Now, if you don't know what that term means, it essentially means nonsense. Now, Spells of Magic, because it isn't funded by anything in particular, it requires footfall in order to drive traffic, which helps to fund the website through adverts. And because of this, there's a lot of fake spells on the website which are designed to attract people in, and then that helps to fund the website for everyone that isn't looking for fake spells. So the spell section, because anyone can add on to it, is full of how to become a mermaid, how to become a vampire like Twilight, how to become a mortal. Those kind of spells that simply aren't based in reality. Sorry, but you aren't going to be able to turn into Bella from Twilight. But by those spells being there, it does allow the rest of the website to function and stay funded. So I typically stay for the community and the forums and kind of bypass the spell section, but it can be good to look through some of the articles because there are a lot of good posts on there made by the really well-known members that have a lot of information behind them. And when you do spend some time on there, you will immediately spot which members are full of knowledge and which ones aren't, and then you can specifically look through the forums and the articles that have been written by those specific members to gain a lot of information from them. Now, I really like Spells of Magic. I still use it every single day. I have a little bit of a problem with Spells of Magic. I have been on it now for like 12 years and I will continue to be on it because I really enjoy the community. It definitely isn't for everyone, but if you are after more of an old school forum, if you are used to more that style of online community, that is still an active one that you can use. So next up, we have Discord. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Discord was originally created for the gaming community to allow them to interact with their community members while simultaneously playing games, but now it has been taken over by a whole bunch of different communities, and a lot of YouTubers and Witchcraft communities also have their own Discord server. As some of you may know, I have a Discord server. It is linked down in the description box, and you can join that at any time. It is a free-to-use service where you can just chat with other members of the community, but there are other people out there that do have much larger Discord communities. I know that Olivia, the Witch of Wonderlust, also has a Discord server that you can join as well. I'm personally not on it, but I have heard some amazing things about it. Now, Discord itself is essentially a large forum. There's loads of different categories down the side of tabs that you can click on, and then each category will have its own conversations happening all about that specific topic, and then you can also directly message individual members if you do want to chat with them further, which can be really good if you do meet someone, say, in a Christian Witchcraft community. You can then chat with them further within that community and kind of develop that understanding of their practice and learn with them and from them and develop that kind of online relationship that a lot of people really crave, especially if they are really struggling to meet people locally. So Discord is really good. It's a little bit confusing. I am not particularly Discord savvy. Any of you that are on my Discord server will likely know that. I don't understand a lot of the stuff on there because I'm very new to Discord. But if you do know Discord quite well because of other communities, joining a Witchcraft Discord server might be a really good way to go because you can kind of add it into your general social media rounds that you do. Next up, we have Facebook. Now, Facebook is something that I personally don't particularly enjoy, but I know that a lot of people do, and especially for the members of the community that maybe don't have a lot of social media but do have Facebook, this could be a good option for you. Now, there's lots of pages or communities within Facebook that you can join to help bring you extra information about witchcraft and that have a bit of a community feel to them. Now, there are so many pages out there. A few of the most well-known ones are the Pagans and Witches UK, and there's also a few more on there. I'll try to link as many as I can down in the description box for anyone that is interested in joining specific pages. And these are generally quite good because there are posts of information. People will add YouTube videos, they will add blog posts, they will add book recommendations, book reviews. They'll be asking questions to other members of the community. And if you do interact with people you really enjoy connecting with, you can then add them to a friend on Facebook and then chat with them that way. Now, of course, there are some negatives when it comes to Facebook. It doesn't have the same forum style approach. And so if you see a post that you really want to come back to later, it can be quite difficult to find it again because especially with the new Facebook algorithm, if you see a post, the next time you refresh a page, it will be gone and you will never find it again. So that does make it a little bit tricky for keeping track of the things that you like and the things that you want to note down in your book of shadows or that you want to learn about further. And also, Facebook does have a bit of a tendency to be a tad gatekeepy in like the worst possible way. The number of times I have seen people posting a question about a negative manipulative working, and they've just been verbally abused by other members of the community with love and light and threefold law and do what ye will but harm none. You guys know what I'm talking about. As far as I'm concerned, anyone can believe whatever they want as long as they aren't hurting anyone else, but I do think it becomes a tad problematic when you start verbally abusing someone else because they hold beliefs that you don't, and Facebook can be a little bit like that. So if you are part of Facebook groups, just take care. Don't get yourself into a situation that's going to make you uncomfortable. I typically tend to observe rather than actually involve myself, but that's because I don't really use Facebook very much. I feel as though Facebook is a little bit of a dying social media, but it is good for anyone that doesn't have much social media and do have Facebook. And then lastly, we do have just a couple of additional social medias that could be really useful for developing your magical practice. The first is Instagram. Now, I really enjoy Instagram for witchcraft. I think it has a lot of great content on it. It's easily accessible. A lot of people do have Instagram, and there are a lot of tags on there that can give you really good information. There are some wonderful creators on there that do put a lot of information in their actual posts, so it might be a pretty picture, but the information in the description is actually really good, so it can be a good way of learning alongside books and other resources if you don't necessarily have the money to buy a whole lot of books, or you don't have the people around you to learn from people in person. It gives you the option to learn a lot of information from a lot of other practitioners, as well as your own information from books and other resources. So that can be good, and also it's a relatively easy community to join. The posts are really easily found. You will find that creators will link other creators, and so eventually you end up with just a giant sea of creators that you can follow, and it's wonderful and magical, and I love it. Even though I don't necessarily post very much in the witchcraft aspect of Instagram, I do really enjoy looking at it. It's very pretty, it contains a lot of information, and so it can be really good for anyone that does already have Instagram. You can just kind of search for things instead of necessarily following them, and it gives you the option to learn information and meet other people. You might find other people within your area that you can interact with, or just other people on the internet that you might resonate with, and you can also send them direct messages on Instagram as long as their Instagram messages are open, and so you can also chat with them that way, which is really good. I have had some amazing conversations with some wonderful practitioners on Instagram, so it is a really accessible way of interacting with other members of the community. And lastly, we have Tumblr. Now, the golden age of Tumblr for witchcraft has gone a little bit. I know it's still there, but let's face it, I think a lot of us can admit that Tumblr witchcraft was like 2008, and it was a wonderful, magical time. But there are still so many good posts on witchcraft Tumblr. It is unbelievable. Now, when I actually first started my online presence, I was actually on Tumblr, and I loved it on there. There are so many long, informative posts that you can get so much information on Tumblr in a really short amount of time. Posts often link to other posts, which link to books and videos and other resources. So really quickly, you can find one post on a topic that you find really interesting, and suddenly you are linked to thousands of other resources on that exact topic, which makes it really accessible for anyone that does want to find a lot of information really quickly. The one thing I will say is you will need to fact check the information. Don't take it as being actually factual just because you've seen it on Tumblr or Instagram or Facebook. Make sure that with all of these platforms you do cross-reference, but Tumblr can be really good. And I think they've now added the ability to interact with other members. So if you do have someone whose posts you really like and they're still active, you can send them a direct message and chat with them that way and gain more of a community feel that way. But the online communities that I personally use the most are always going to be Instagram, Pagan and Witches Amino, The Witches Circle Amino, and Spells of Magic. That's personally my little favourite category. I spend a lot of time on those aspects, and you can follow me on there if you want to. I'll put my information down in the description box, but it is just Hearth Witch. Super easy, super simple. I try to have it on everything as best as I can, but I really enjoy those communities, and I use them alongside the in-person communities that I'm going to be talking about next. So moving on to in-person. Now, this is something that not everyone is going to be able to do, and it's going to entirely depend on your local area. In the UK, we have a lot of in-person events and places that we can go to meet other practicing witches and pagans, but not every country is going to be the same. So I think Britain, Australia, New Zealand, North America, Canada, those kind of places are going to have pretty easily accessible locations where you can meet other people, but for other countries around the world, it really is entirely going to depend on your local area. So the first thing are moots. Now, moots are probably one of my favourite ways to meet other people. They're just generally a really nice community environment. So what is a moot? Well, the term moot is the Old English word for gathering or meeting. So essentially they're just meetings of people. Now, the term moot is often associated with pagans and witches, largely because of the Old English association with it. So you'll often find these events being advertised as pagan moots, Wiccan moots, or witchcraft moots. Now, these moots typically take place once a month, usually in some form of pub or drinking establishment. Now, the downside of that does mean that if you are under drinking age, you might not be allowed in, depending on the actual location that specific moot is taking place in. So I know that one of the moots that I personally attend, you are allowed to go into the pub if you are under 18, but you obviously can't drink anything. But they do let you in, and that's going to really depend entirely on where you go in the country and what the rules of each individual drinking establishment, I love that word, establishment, are depending on where you live. Now, moots typically take place once a month on a specific day, so usually it might be the third Friday or the second Tuesday. And so it's a really good way just to gather with people once a month so you know where everyone is going to be. If you're online, you have to wait for people to come online or for people to get your messages. If you go to other events and shows, you have to hope that they're going to be there. Whereas with moots, you typically have the same people going every single time, and you know exactly where you're going to be at a certain time. Now, the other bonus with moots is that you'll often find that these gatherings of people will also attract writers and people who just want to do talks on their specific subject. So my local moot, for instance, you pay £1 on the door, and that then goes to pay for the speaker to come in and give a talk. So I've had the pleasure of listening to a number of different authors do talks, as well as just local people who have a lot of information on a specific subject. They will come in and they will do, say, an hour and a half of a talk, and then they'll have a Q&A, and then you can just sit and chat with other people and eat and drink and be merry and all of the good things that come with meeting like-minded people. Now, the only slight downside with moots is that depending on the type of people that attend the event, you might find that they're a little bit cliquey. A lot of traditional pagans and more mature pagans, especially if they've been going to these moots for a really long time, often form groups of people that they associate with, and they don't really like new people coming in. Now, this obviously isn't going to apply to everyone, but I do know of some groups that have a little bit of a problem of not accepting new members quite as readily, mainly because they have their own friends and they kind of want to keep it that way. But if you do manage to find a good group of people that you can click with, a moot could be a really good place to go. And I personally really enjoy them, especially if you find somewhere that does good food and drink, because then you can eat, drink, and listen to a speech and just chat with your friends. They're just generally a really fun time. Now, aside from moots, there are definitely other gatherings out there. If you are at university or college, do Americans call it college or university? I've had Americans call it both, and I'm really confused as to how I meant to describe it. Further education, let's put it that way. Here in the UK, we call it university. You'll often find societies within that university that you can join. Now, when I went to university, we had an event called Freshers' Fair, or Serendipity as it's sometimes known, where you can go, and it's usually the first week of the year, and you can go around and you can see all of the events and all of the societies that are going to be taking place during that year, and you can chat with the people and really get to know them. Especially in the UK, most universities will have a society for paganism, witchcraft, Wicca, something along those lines. When I was at university, my particular group was called the Earth Religion Society, but I have attended other university groups that were called the Pagan Society or the Witchcraft Community. Lots of different universities will have lots of different names for basically the same thing, but it's essentially a gathering of people where you meet once a week, usually on a certain day in a certain room at a certain time, and you can just really chit-chat and get to know everyone and develop your practice together as a community. And I have to say that the society that I was a part of when I was at university was thoroughly enjoyable. I loved it so much. We would meet every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and we would also meet at a local stone circle for Sabbats, SBATs, and any special occasions. And it was generally just a really nice environment because we had people from all over the country, from loads of different walks of life, backgrounds, religions, traditions, and we would all come together and we would teach each other and share information and do courses and group work and energy manipulation and celebrations and ritual practice. And it was really good just to deep dive into different people's traditions mediums and the kind of things that they practice and learn from them. So just a few of the amazing people that I met while I was there were Wiccans, higher level Wiccans, which was really cool to learn about, American traditional practitioners, as well as mediums. So many people come together in these societies to just learn, grow, and develop. And because typically you're all a similar age, unless you have mature students coming in, it really allows for you to grow your practice as a whole, as a community. Whereas I find sometimes the moots can be a little bit difficult because you typically have large age gaps between members. When it comes to the university societies, because everyone is between the ages of, say, 18 and 25, it gives you a really good chance to get to know people your own age that become long-standing friends in the future, which I think is a really nice thing. Now, oftentimes these societies will have Facebook groups, so if you are part of that society and you can't necessarily go to university at the moment because of everything that's happening in the world, you will likely still find a Facebook group that's active with messenger systems in it that you can use, where you can interact with people even if you can't actually attend the event every single week. So moving on to MBS shows. Now, MBS shows are also referred to as mind, body, and spirit, or mind, body, and soul shows. They're essentially holistic markets where hundreds of stallholders come together to sell their occult, pagan, witchcraft, and holistic wares, as well as therapists, tarot readers, oracle readers, rune readers, palm readers, psychic mediums, and everyone else gathers together. And there's also typically food that you can eat, drinks that you can drink, and lots of talks and events that you can go to throughout the day. So these events are basically my bread and butter. I do these events all of the time with my business. So for example, in 2019, I did about 45 events. I was basically booked every single weekend, just traveling around, going to different MBS shows, and I absolutely love the environment of the shows. You meet so many wonderful people. Now in the UK and North America, there are quite a lot of these shows that happen. I'm not sure about everywhere else in the world, but here in the UK, you can basically find an MBS show happening every single weekend. Obviously not quite in the conditions we live in right now, but generally speaking, they're really, really readily available. Now, these shows are wonderful because there's a huge number of people that come. You'll often find the same people go to the same shows in the same location time and time again. There's also talks that go on all day, so typically you pay an entrance fee of around £5-ish, and then you can go to every single talk throughout that entire day. And there are some wonderful people that do the talks. I've done talks myself at these shows. Some of my friends at the events have also done talks at the shows. Authors come in and give talks about their specific topic, and honestly, they're just such a wonderful environment to come and be. And I spend all weekend there, obviously, because I'm working it. But honestly, even if I didn't have to be there, I would probably choose to be there all weekend because you get so many amazing talks and you can really chat with other people. You get to know the stall holders, you make friends with other people that are at the talks with you. I have seen whole covens go to these events just to learn and develop their practice and chat with other people. It is just such a wonderful environment to be in, especially if you are getting interested in all of this. You get to talk to so many knowledgeable people, and if you are interested in psychic readings, you can also have that done as well. So generally, I really enjoy them. Now, some of them are much more well known than others. So for instance, in the UK, the most well known are Pagan Pride and Witchfest. Witchfest being probably one of the largest witchcraft conventions in the world. Now, here in the UK, we have two Witchfests. We have Witchfest Croydon, which happens in London-ish, and then we have Witchfest Midlands, which is the one that I personally attend because it's closest to where I am. And honestly, they are so much fun. I would choose to go every year if I wasn't booked. I have been booked for a couple of years, but I did manage to go in 2019 to Witchfest Midlands, and it was so much fun, and I would thoroughly recommend giving it a go if you are interested in attending these kind of events. They're wonderful. I will link some of the shows that I have personally enjoyed in the description box. Obviously, these are not going to be super widespread because I can't travel everywhere, but the ones that I have attended and really enjoyed, I will link down there because as the world starts opening up again, the small businesses are definitely going to need support, and these events are hotspots for loads of small businesses that are just starting up. It's how I started my company, and I absolutely love mind, body, and spirit shows. I think they're so much fun, and you can really open yourself up to new opportunities, which leads me on to the last kind of meeting that you might find, and that is covens. Now, covens are a really well-known idea. The basis is you have a collection of people that come together and they study and they practice as a group together. The basis being that you have strength in numbers, and so you can learn and bounce ideas off each other. You can grow within your personal practice and within your collective practice together. Now, covens can be quite difficult to find, especially pre-existing covens. I know a lot of people do create their own small friendship groups where they work together for spell work and ritual, but a pre-existing coven can be quite difficult to find. So how do you go about finding them? Now, typically, covens are quite secretive. If they are open to new members, there's often a waiting list, depending on how popular that coven environment is. But one of the main places you might find them advertising are occult shops. Witchcraft shops, occult shops, whatever they're called in your local area, you may well find that the people that work there are very knowledgeable on the things that are happening in that local area. That includes covens and whether or not they need new members. Sometimes it's all about talking to the person that works behind the counter. Other times they might have a billboard or a corkboard where they actually pin information to it. So if you are looking for the next MBS show, or you're looking for a festival, or you're looking to join a coven, those things might be posted on the billboard that you can then look at and apply at a later date. And so these shops can be a really good way to make friends with people. I know that a lot of occult shops out there do offer courses, and you can sit in and chat and you can learn with people, and you can make some really firm friends if you are local to one of these occult shops, and you can spend time in there and chat with other customers and the people behind the counter as well. You can learn a lot because the people that work in these shops are typically very knowledgeable in what they're talking about. Now, the other ways to find covens is online. Now, covens rarely post online, but sometimes they do, especially if it's a group in your local area. You may well find postings about it. And then another way that you may well find covens and coven spaces are MBS shows. As I said, I've seen whole covens attend MBS shows looking for potential people that might be a good fit for their environment. But one thing that I will say about covens is please don't jump straight into it without doing your proper research on the coven itself and the type of work that that coven does. It's really important to remember that just because a coven is there doesn't mean it's the right fit for you. And also, if a coven doesn't vet you intensely, then maybe they're just trying to get members instead of trying to find the right fit. The people in covens that I know personally have spent a year, sometimes 2 years, training underneath a pre-existing member of the coven to make sure that they're capable of pulling their own weight. When it comes to a coven environment, everyone needs to be equally balanced. You can't have one person who is all powerful and everyone else is just kissing their feet. That's not how it's going to work. To have a really well-balanced environment, you need to have different people who are maybe good at different things, but they all pull their own weight. And to find that out, it takes a lot of rigorous training and testing to see whether that person's morals, their practices, their tradition, their religious beliefs line up with the rest of the covens. And if they don't, then that's okay too. It's much better to find a coven environment where you feel safe and comforted. They're an extension of yourself. They're almost a family in their own right, than jumping into a coven that makes you feel uncomfortable, where the members don't really pay that much attention to what's happening around them, and where they're putting their members in dangerous or uncomfortable situations. Please remember that if you're just starting out, you don't need to join a coven, but of course they can be really nice communities to join if you do happen to find one that you really like. And if you're lucky enough to have witchy friends, you can also form your own group or collective or coven if you have enough members, so that you can practice together without having to necessarily search for a pre-existing coven. So those are just a few of the ways that you can meet like-minded members within your own community, both online and in person. I know it was a lot, and I've had the very good fortune to have the opportunity to go to a lot of these different events and try them out and try the websites and see what works and see what I like. So my personal favourites are MBS shows, moots, Pagan and Witches Amino, and forums such as Discord or Spells of Magic. But of course, everyone is going to be different. Some people are going to prefer the more modern social media platforms like Instagram. Other people might resonate more with Facebook. Some might simply like covens, others might like moots. It's really a case of testing out what works for you and what works in your local area, because I am very fortunate in the UK to have a lot of these things relatively local to me. The pagan community is large and ever growing in the UK, so it's pretty common to find moots being advertised on Facebook. If you would like to see if any of these events are local to you, I would recommend trying Facebook. Simply type in pagan moot and then your location, and you may well find a collection of moots that you maybe didn't even know were there. I know when I did it, I was shocked that there were 5 in my local area, because that is a whole lot of moots happening all in one go, and I was honestly really shocked. I didn't expect there to be 5. So it's definitely worth doing your research and seeing what is available in your area, and of course, always being safe. I think that's the biggest thing to take away from all of this. I know it can be really interesting and you can feel really desperate to find a collection of people that you resonate with, but at the end of the day, if they're putting you in danger or if you don't feel safe, then that's not worth the risk. I'll say again, as I said at the start, please don't give your personal details out to people you've just met on the internet. Please don't meet up with people that you don't know. Make sure that you are always staying safe, because as much as I would love to think that every single person on earth was a nice person, I know that they aren't. And the problem is that a lot of people can put themselves in risk when they really shouldn't. So if you want to chat with people online, stick to the pre-existing social platforms that have a built-in security system. If someone makes you feel uncomfortable, contact a moderator. If they still make you feel uncomfortable, block them. The block button exists for a reason. You don't need to feel guilty about using it. If someone is putting you in an uncomfortable position, you can block them. You don't need 1,000,001 reasons to do it. If a Coven environment makes you feel uncomfortable, don't be a part of it anymore. Take baby steps into the community, see what works for you, see what doesn't, do what makes you feel safe, and make sure at the end of the day that you are happy and healthy, because I have met so many people who remove all of their pre-existing friends to replace them with witchcraft friends, and I will say in all of this, it's a really good thing to find a balance. Keep your real life friends as long as they aren't causing you harm and they aren't being negative towards you. Keep real people in the real world, and then have online or witchcraft community friends as well. Witchcraft doesn't have to be your sole personality either. I've met so many people who feel they have to be a witch and nothing else. You are capable of being part of other communities as well. Don't cut off every other aspect of your life for witchcraft. Instead, try to find as best a balance as you can. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. It really, really means so much to me. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community, feel free to put it down in the comment section. And if you have found great success finding other members of the community using other social media platforms and those kind of things, feel free to put it down in the comment section so that other people can find their communities using them as well. If you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to give it a like. It really means so much to me. I hope you all have a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! That is a ginormous lorry. This is where I film at night, because they're doing building work across the street from me. So there's like 100 lorries outside right now. I love it. You know, it's just that city chic living. I want to live in the countryside so bad. I am back again for take 2, 8 hours later. I realised 8 minutes in that I had a smear of lipstick down here, but I only noticed that 8 minutes in I had a smear of lipstick down here after 3 hours of filming. Yes, go me. So I have 2 videos filmed that I can't use either of them because my lipstick is smeared out here. So those videos aren't going up. So this is take 2, and let's see how long it takes me to this up, because I inevitably will. Was that everything I wanted to say? I think that was everything I wanted to say. It's been 8 hours since I filmed the initial video and 5 days since I filmed this the first time. I'm forgetting.